Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you're new. In today's video, I will be redoing the I-130 online form step-by-step instructions. I will go into significantly more detail in this video on certain parts of the application. I will also answer some of the most frequently asked questions. Hopefully this time around you will find this guide even more accessible and even easier to follow. In order to get started with the online I-130 application, you will go to the uscis.gov webpage. Right on the top right corner, you will see the sign in button. Click that and either sign in or create an account if you don't already have a USCIS account. If you have previously created an online account, for example, for your own naturalization application, and now you would like to petition for a relative, you can definitely use the same account. I will quickly sign in. Once you sign into your online USCIS account, if you have never filed any forms before, you will see a homepage that looks like this. Here, you will go ahead and click on this button called File a Form Online. Next, you will select what form you are filing. In our case, it is the I-130 Petition for Alien Relative form. Click on Start Form. Next, you will be guided to a pre-form page, which will give you a quick explanation about the form in general and what it is used for. And it will also here give you certain pointers to keep in mind. First of all, it will guide you through your eligibility to confirm for you once again if you are eligible to file this form for your relative. Whether you are a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, it will explain to you which kind of relatives you are eligible to file for. Next, it will give you a quick idea of how much you will have to pay in fees. At the very end of the online application, they will take you to a separate payment page where you pay the fee, and then you will submit your online I-130 application. Next, they give you a quick idea of which documents you may need for this application to have on hand. Here, they also give you additional considerations such as how you will be able to track your case status. One of the best advantages of filing the Form I-130 online is that it does give you an ability to log into your account at any time and see the progression on your case. The other great advantage is that the online application allows you to respond to any RFEs that they issue online, which is a wonderful thing. So even if you file the Form I-130 online and you get a request for evidence in regards to your affidavit of support form, for example, your online USCIS account and the form will allow you to upload this RFE response also online. You can also read all of this on your own in more detail before you get started on the application. So let's click next. One of the greatest things about filing this form online as well is that your responses are automatically saved. So if you have spotty internet, it will definitely help you with retaining all your information. Another great thing about the Form I-130 online is that you can come back to it at literally any time to be completed. This is just a quick Privacy and Paperwork Reduction Act statements, which are generic. And at the very end, they give you a reminder that if you don't work on your form for more than 30 days, your data will be deleted. So this doesn't mean that your form will be deleted within the 30 days of you starting and creating this online application. It basically means that if you don't log into your account for more than 30 days, everything will be deleted. So if you need more time to complete this application and upload evidence, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you are periodically logging in and kind of reviewing the form to make sure that you reset this 30-day deadline. Okay, so let's get started on the actual form. So on the left-hand side of the form, you will see that there's all these sections that you will need to complete. Don't panic if this is too much information. You can come back and complete this form at any time. So before you begin, they do give you a quick definition of words petitioner and beneficiary so that you don't get confused. So a petitioner is the U.S. citizen or legal resident who files an alien petition for a family member. And then the beneficiary is the relative that you would like to bring to the United States. Currently, only I-130 is available online. You cannot file I-485 or I-129F online at this time. However, even if you file the Form I-130 online, you're still eligible for concurrent filing with the Form I-485. And I do have a video on my channel explaining exactly how the concurrent filing situation works. Okay, so first page, they ask you if somebody's assisting you with completing this petition. We're gonna say no and click next. Here, you are asked in the section the information all about you, the petitioner. So first, you will need to type in your full name, whatever your legal name is right now. Next, the application asks if you have ever used any other names since birth. If you click yes to this question, you will have to provide any other names you have used. And at the very end of this application, in the evidence portion, if you clicked yes to this question, they will ask you to upload a document of name change. Any names that you have used on actual documentation, because you will then have to provide proof of that in the evidence portion. We can just say, for example, that she used to have a hyphenated name, Jane Marie, and a last name Smith before. And you can add as many names as you want that you have used here before. Click next. Okay, so here they're just asking for a contact information for you, so you can type whatever your phone number is. And then you can select if your mobile number is the same as your daytime number, your email address. Next, you will have to indicate your current mailing address, and this mailing address will be used to contact you throughout the process where you will be receiving your notices as well, or any other communication from USCIS. So please make sure that you're providing a valid address, and the system will also verify the address for you as well. So here it says in care of name. So this basically means that if there's anybody else living in your address that can receive mail on your behalf, you can type their name here. If not, you can leave this line blank. Now, as you can see, because I used a fake address, it does tell me that there is an error in verifying this address, that it was not found. However, if you type in your actual address and it still doesn't come up, that's fine. If you are convinced that your address is correct and it's proper, even if you get this error, you can just ignore it. Next, it asks you if you live at your current mailing address. You can say yes or no, and obviously if you say yes, you will just then have to proceed to the next page. If you say no, on the next page, they will ask you to provide a physical address where you actually live. So we'll just say yes. Here, you will have to include your address history for the past 5 years, and this is the same as on the paper form I-130, the same as online. You will have to go and add any addresses where you have lived for the past 5 years, one by one. So we do have to add the current address one more time. And by the way, you don't have to complete this application all in capital letters, but it's just a preference of mine because it makes letters more easier to understand. So here you will have to indicate when you lived here. In the paper application, it will let you leave the date to blank, and it does let you write in letters present. However, here you must provide a date response, which is fine. You here can just type whatever date you are actually submitting this application, or you can come back to this application on the day you're planning to submit this form and redo the date of whenever you are submitting this form. It won't let you put any date further than today. You still have to indicate whatever today's date is. Save entry. Next, we can add another address because it's asking for 5 years. I only indicated 2019, so we'll need to be accountable for 2 more years in the system. Save entry. And as you will see, we added the 2 addresses where we have lived for the past 5 years. If you had more addresses, then obviously you will have to indicate those. Click next. So in this part of the application, they will ask you some biographic information. What I like about the online application, if you don't really know where to put yourself, they do give you a quick question mark that kind of shows you where you fit best. For a lot of people, this is purely arbitrary. This is what you basically prefer. You can just say our height, weight, eye color, hair color. Okay, next. Okay, here you will have to add your employment information for the last 5 years. Again, very similar to the paper form. And you have to provide your current employment first. If you're unemployed, you just type unemployed. So let's pretend that we are unemployed right now. So right here, we could just say unemployed and leave the rest of this blank. And you have to type in since when you are unemployed. And again, you just can put in whatever today's date is or the day you are submitting this application. Save entry. And let's add another employer prior to the year 2021. So here you will see all the jobs that you have, starting with the most current one, you are unemployed, and any other jobs you had before. And I do get this question whether or not you should write unemployed if you are, for example, currently in college and you are a student. Can you write student? No, because even if you are a student, you're still unemployed. So you'll write unemployed. Another question I get is, what if I am a graduate assistant and I'm getting paid for my job? Should I write that? Yes, absolutely, because you are working and getting paid. So if you are in school and you're getting paid, it's still a job. So you can still indicate it. And if it's in college, for instance, you can just write your college address and then the department where you work. Okay, so we're done with the employment history. Let's click next. So now you will just have to answer your current immigration status. You could say, I'm a US citizen. You didn't get citizenship or LPR through adoption. What is your A number? So here you can type in your A number if you have one. If you are a naturalized citizen, you can find your A number on your naturalization certificate. So, or you can say, I don't have one if, say, you were born in the United States. What is your USCIS online account number? So here, again, this is if you have filed any applications before, your USCIS online account number will be visible on your USCIS account when you log in. But if you have never filed any online applications before, you probably don't have one. So you can just say, I don't have an online account number. What is your social security number? So here you can just type in your social security number. Your date of birth and country of birth. And your town or city of birth. Next, they ask you how you obtained your US citizenship. This is pretty straightforward. We'll just say birth in the United States. and then have you obtained certificate of naturalization or citizenship. But if you were born in the United States, you can just say no. So we're done with basically the first section. Now we're moving on to the second section. Respond about your current marital status. So we'll just pretend that we are filing this application for our spouse. So we'll just say married. How many times have you been married? So this is where you will put the total number of marriages you've ever had. So in our case, we can just say 1, because we're filing a petition for our current spouse and we've only ever been married once. If you have been divorced before or widowed before this marriage, you'll just have to say 2 or however many times you've been married. Here it asks you about your current spouse's legal name. So we'll just have to type in our spouse's name. Asks you when you married your current spouse. Where were you married to your current spouse? And here it asks, when did your last marriage end? So this is asking about your current most recent marriage. When did it end? If you are still married to this person that we indicated here, we don't have to do anything here and we can just click next. It may give you an error message saying that you have to fill in a date. All you have to do is just ignore it and click next one more time. So on the next page, you will have to indicate any prior marriages you've ever had. This is very similar to how we filled in the address and employment history. You will just have to add anybody else you have been married to before. If not, you just leave this alone and click next. Now they're asking for your parents' information. So you, the petitioner, we're still this application is very long. We're still talking about the petitioner. So here you will have to indicate the names of your parents. So for each parent, you'll just have to say their full name, their date of birth, gender, country of birth, and here it asks for their city, town of residence or country of residence. And for people who are submitting this application for their parents, so for people who are petitioning their parents who are currently in the United States, residing with you right now, and you decided to petition for them and adjust their status from inside the US, you will have to indicate that their current residence is wherever they live with you in the United States. Again, if you're petitioning for your parents and they are overseas, then you'll obviously have to indicate that their current residence is overseas. However, if your family is currently with you, if your parents are currently with you, and you're planning to petition for them using this application, then obviously you'll have to indicate where in the United States they are living. It asks about the parent too. Type in their information. And if, for instance, your parent is by any chance deceased, you'll just have to write deceased in this line and leave the country of residence blank. You can ignore this part if they're not living. Finally, we are moving on to the beneficiaries information, and here we will begin by filling out the information about the relative you are petitioning. So we'll say spouse. When you select spouse, it will give you this notice that says you selected that you're petitioning for your spouse. So that means you will need to provide this form I-130A supplemental information for spouse beneficiary as part of the evidence. So this is a form that can only be filled out in PDF or by paper. So you will have to go to the USCIS site, download this form I-130A, complete it, and have it ready to upload with the evidence portion in this online application. Next, you will have to answer if anyone else has ever filed a petition for this beneficiary before, and if anybody else has petitioned for this beneficiary via another I-130, so a family petition or an employment-based petition, then you will have to say yes. But if nobody has ever petitioned for this person before, you'll just have to say no. So next, it asks about the beneficiary's current legal name. And if you have noticed in the portion of the petitioner's family information, we already filled in the petitioners. So you, the person filling out this form, we have already completed your marital information and the name of your current spouse, but here you will have to repeat the same information. Same applies for you if you're petitioning for your parents, and in this section, your family, you have filled out information about your parents. Now you will still have to fill out that information about the parent that you're petitioning for. And remember, as a US citizen, you have to fill out a separate I-130 petition for each of your parents if you're petitioning both of them. And also, as a US citizen, you have to fill out separate I-130s for your spouse and your children and each of your children. So keep that in mind. I know I have a lot of questions about whose name do I fill out in the section if I'm trying to immigrate my spouse and my child, or if I'm trying to immigrate both of my parents. Well, as a US citizen, you have to complete a separate I-130 petition for each. So in the beneficiary section, you will dedicate this whole section, this whole information only about the specific relative for whom you're filling out a separate I-130. So here we will have to write our spouse's name one more time. Here it asks if the beneficiary has used any other name since birth. Very similar. If you have, you will have to type what those names are here, and you will need to provide evidence of legal name change in the evidence section. But if you've never used any other names before, if the beneficiary has never used any other names before, then you can ignore this section and click next. Next, you will have to provide the contact information for the beneficiary, and here it asks for the country code and the phone number, so you can change the country code if necessary and type in the phone number and an email address if they have one. Next, you will have to indicate where the beneficiary is residing right now. If your spouse or your parent, whoever you're petitioning for, is residing outside the United States, then obviously you will have to provide their address here. Another question I get sometimes is, what happens if the beneficiary lives in a place that doesn't really have a proper address, and they kind of have to receive mail using a very different system? Say there is no such thing as a zip code or postal code, whatever it may be. You will just have to fill in this application to your best ability. So definitely fill in the country part of it, fill in whatever the nearest town is or whatever town your beneficiary uses. So next question asks, where in the United States does the beneficiary intend to live? So after immigrating here, where are they living? If they're planning to live at the same address as we have indicated here as their current address, we will only just have to type same in the first line. The next question asks, where is the beneficiary's address outside the United States? So if the beneficiary's address outside the United States is different from where they live now, then you can indicate it here. Okay, in this section here, it asks, where did you and your spouse last live together? So this question asks to provide an address where you and your spouse have resided most recently. So we'll just say that they still live together at the 10 Sunny Street. So we'll just say that address. If you have never lived together, you will just have to type never lived together in this line right here, address line 1. And another question I get is, what happens if my spouse lives overseas and I go to visit them every once in a while, just as a visitor? Then in that case, you never actually lived together. If you, as the petitioner, actually are filing this petition from outside the US and you have been living with your spouse and working somewhere overseas, and having your whole family over there, then obviously you'll have to indicate that foreign address. But if you visited once or twice, then in that case, you can't really say that you have lived together. So just keep that in mind. And here you will just have to provide the address when you and your spouse lived at this address. And actually, in this part of the application, if you are currently living at this address, then over here, you can ignore this date and you can just leave it blank right here and just click next. This doesn't let you do for all of the dates, but in this part of the application, it does let you omit this part of the application. Next, you will here have to indicate the beneficiary's A number. If they don't have one, you can just say they don't have one. If they have an alien number that they got from visas that they've had before, then you can indicate it here. We could just say they don't have one. If they don't have a USCIS account number, you also can say no. But if your beneficiary, for example, has ever used an USCIS online account to submit, say, an employment authorization form in the past or something like that, then you can indicate their USCIS account number here as well. And their social security number, you can indicate it here. Or if the beneficiary has never worked in the United States and never received social security number, you can just say they don't have one. And the beneficiary's date of birth, country of birth, we'll just say Canada, Vancouver, male. Okay. Moving on, here you will need to provide the information about beneficiary's immigration status. So here you will have to answer if the beneficiary has ever been in the United States. So you could say yes or no. So we'll just say yes. The passport number, so just provide the passport number. Now, a question that I get asked is, can this application be completed for somebody who doesn't yet have a passport number? Say, for example, your beneficiary is outside the United States and they haven't received a passport number yet, or they haven't renewed their passport yet and they're not here. Can you proceed? You absolutely can. You don't have to indicate their passport number here if they don't have one yet. Same applies to people who are applying with a passport that is expired, for example. If they have entered the United States, for instance, many, many years ago, and since then their passport has expired, you still have to provide the passport number here. Please remember that for this part of the application, you do have to provide a passport number and passport details and entry information for the passport that was used specifically for entry to the United States. And then if you don't have a travel document number, you can just leave this blank. Country of issuance of the passport, expiration date, and was the beneficiary ever in immigration proceedings? So this question purely asks if you've ever been in deportation, removal, rescission proceedings, anything like that. If you've never been in any of those, like immigration court, anything like that, then you'll just have to say no. Click next. What is the beneficiary's class of admission? So the class of admission can be found on your visa or your I-94 record as well. You can obtain, and you will need to obtain your I-94 record if you're able to do that. You will just have to type in whatever the class of admission was. Say in our instance, it was a B2 visitor. Next, you will need to provide the I-94 arrival departure record number. And the I-94 can be obtained on the Customs and Border Patrol site. So if you just type in I-94 in Google, it will take you to the page where you can obtain this form. So here you'll just have to scroll down, click on Get Most Recent I-94, and it will take you to the information where you'll have to type in your name, the way it appears in your passport, your birthday, your passport number, country of citizenship, and then it will let you get your most recent I-94. And then you will just have to type in whatever that number is. Next, you will have to answer about the beneficiary's date of arrival, and then when does the authorized stay expire. And in the case, if you are, for example, an F1 student or a J visitor, in your authorized stay expires after you complete your program. In your I-94, you will notice that on the authorized expiration date, you will, instead of a date, you will see letters D/S. So in that case, you can just ignore this date and leave it blank and proceed to the next part of this application. But if you have a specific date written on the I-94 form, then you just have to type it in here. Next, here it's asking briefly to indicate where does the beneficiary currently work. If the beneficiary is unemployed, you'll just have to type in unemployed in the top portion of this field and then leave the rest blank, and you can leave this part blank as well. You can omit this date. So in this part of the application, we will be talking about the beneficiary's family. So say, for instance, our beneficiary is married. Obviously, our beneficiary is married to you, the petitioner who is completing this I-130 online application. Same question here as before. How many times have you been married before? So we'll just say 2 times, for example, that John has been married twice, including his current spouse. So here it will ask us to provide the name of the beneficiary's current spouse, and obviously it is Jane, who is completing the application for John. And here, very similar question as it was in the previous part of this application. When did the last marriage end? This current marriage that we're talking about right now did not end yet, so we will leave this date blank. Click next. Now here, because we have indicated that John has been married twice in his life, we will have to add the information of his previous spouse. So here we'll go ahead and add whoever his prior spouse was. And it asks you, when did this marriage end? Another question that I get is what to put for marriage end date if you are a widower, for example, or a widow. And here you'll just have to write the death date of your late spouse. Save entry. So here we have prior spouses. Click next. Okay. And here you will be asked to provide information about the beneficiary's family. So current spouse and children, if they have any. And once again, we will have to add the information about John's spouse one more time. Who is Jane? Who is the petitioner in our case? So we will just have to add her name here again. So now that we're done with the family information, we'll move on to the next part. So here they will just ask you some additional questions in regards to this application. This page right here asks where the beneficiary will apply for their green card. So if the beneficiary is currently in the United States and will apply for adjustment of status, which means they will file Form I-485 and they are eligible to apply for adjustment of status from inside the US, then in this case, you will indicate where that will happen. A common question that I get in this part of the application is which city or town should I be putting in this part where I will be adjusting my status. And if you know a USCIS field office near you and what city or town it's located in, then you can indicate that nearest field office. But if you don't know, or if you're too scared to make a mistake, then you can just write the city or town where you are currently residing. However, if your beneficiary, if your spouse will be doing consular processing, such as if they're living in another country and that's where they will be completing their green card interview and everything, then you will leave this top part blank and you will actually move down to this part and answer at which U.S. Embassy or consulate will they apply for their immigrant visa, basically means their green card. So here you will indicate the consulate or embassy. You can technically choose a country where they are not currently residing. If, for example, an embassy or consulate in their home country is closed, and they have to apply for their visa at another country. So here you can indicate that embassy or consulate, but please be aware that it doesn't guarantee that it will be accepted for processing. What I have seen, the best course of action to do in this case is for you to provide whatever your country of residence is, whatever that embassy or consulate is. And after your case is transferred to the NVC, to that embassy or consulate, you can then contact the embassy or consulate in the country in which you wish to continue your case and ask them to accept your case. But that is the kind of legwork you're going to have to do on your own afterwards. So that is something that I have seen people do in the past. Next, you will have to answer if you have ever filed a petition for this beneficiary or anybody else. And if you click yes, for instance, it will take you to a separate page where you will have to fill in the information about whom you have petitioned in the past. Say, for instance, you have submitted the I-130 petition for another relative before. You'll type in their full name here, where you filed this petition, when it was filed, and then what the result was. So you could say you withdrew the petition, or maybe it was denied, or maybe it was approved before. You'll just have to write the outcome here. But please remember that if you are filing a petition in the future, say for instance you're petitioning both of your parents, and right now you're filling out an application for one of your parents and you will fill out another application later for another parent, here you don't have to say yes and you will not be filling out this part. So you'll still have to say no, because this is only asking about petitions that have been submitted for processing before and have already had an outcome. So if you say no, it takes you to another page, and here it's asking if you are planning to submit petitions for any other relative. So if you are submitting, like I said, for both parents, and you're planning to submit another petition for your parent, then you can add their name here. And if you are, say, petitioning for a spouse and you will also be petitioning for your child, you can add their name here, and again, all the other details, their name and their relationship to you. And just a good rule of thumb is if you are submitting petitions within a couple of days to like a month maybe, but if definitely I wouldn't include anybody who you don't really have set plans to petition yet, but you're just thinking in the future in a few years, then I wouldn't indicate it here. Click next. So this part right here can be somewhat confusing to some people, and it's asking about the beneficiaries' information in their native written language. So this only asks for beneficiaries who live in a country whose native language doesn't use Roman letters. So Roman letters are literally English letters, like these letters that we use. So if you, for example, come from a country that speaks Spanish, Italian, French, you don't need to do anything here because your alphabet still uses Roman letters. But if you come from a country that uses, for example, Chinese, Japanese characters, or maybe Sanskrit or something like that, or Arabic, then in this case, you will have to upload a document that shows the beneficiary's name and foreign address in their native written language. You can either use a document that you already have on hand, such as, for instance, if the beneficiary has an identification document from their home country with their name and address written in whatever their native language is, then you can upload that document here. If you don't have a document like that, you can create your own. You can type it on a Word document and then save it as a PDF. So you will just have to upload that document here, and I will show you a sample document that I used, for example, in this case. Again, on the screen, I will insert a sample document, what it could look like. Click next. Okay, and so in this part of the application, additional information, if there is anything else in the application in any of these previous sections that you didn't have room to explain, you can upload an additional information part here. So for instance, this is one of the things that I encountered in the past is if the beneficiary's home address is too long and it doesn't fit, or if the beneficiary's address in their home country is confusing and doesn't have a postal system like we do in the United States, then here you can clarify it. So for instance, you'll say add information. You will select which section you would like to clarify. You can just say, for example, your beneficiaries, addresses, and then you can select what is the beneficiary's address outside the US, and here you can clarify whatever you need to clarify. You only have 200 characters, but we don't have anything to add, so we'll just click cancel and next. So now we are at the part of the application where you have to upload evidence that is necessary for your case to be processed. And so as part of the I-130 petition, you will need to provide evidence, and this page thankfully guides you through what kind of evidence you need to submit. The first part, it will ask you, the petitioner, for proof of citizenship. So here you will need to upload a document that proves that you are a US citizen, and here are the examples that they give you. So if you have a copy of your birth certificate from the United States, then you will upload a picture or a PDF file here, front and back. Same for your naturalization certificate, any kind of other things that prove your US citizenship. And again, you don't have to provide all of these. You can just provide any of these documents. Next, so here you will need to upload a copy of your marriage certificate, and for instance, if you are married in the United States, then that's all you have to do. You just upload your marriage certificate, for example. And I would also suggest that you are naming the files on your computer so that when they get uploaded, you see the name here and it's clear to understand what it is. And if you got married in another country and your marriage certificate is written in a different language, you also want to attach any translations that you need along with the original document, like it says right here. So you can say upload the marriage certificate translation, for instance. Moving on, here you will need to upload evidence of your spouse's prior marriages. And as you remember, in our application, we indicated that John was previously married. And let's say, for instance, that John is a widower and his previous spouse passed away. So in this case, you will again also need to upload any documents like divorce certificates, divorce decrees, annulments, or a death certificate showing that the marriage did legally end. And again, if there are any translations of that occurred in another country, you will need to include a document here as well. So moving on, this part of the application asks for passport style photos, and this unfortunately causes a lot of confusion because these instructions are copied and pasted from the paper application, and all you really have to do is you don't need to upload the back side of your photo with your name or a number. This only applies to paper applications where you're physically sending in passport style photos. All you have to do here is simply upload a 2 by 2 inches, like a square passport style photo of yourself, the petitioner. And again, you also can take these photos yourself on your own cell phone or camera. And if you want, you can also go to the travel.state.gov site and look up what your passport style photos should look like. They give you photo examples, they give you resolution, measurements, whatever you need. So for these photos, again, you can take them on your own phone or your own camera. Next, you will need to upload the same type of photo for your spouse beneficiary. And if you are filing this application for your parents, you will not get this part of the evidence. You will not need to upload passport style photos. And next, here we are in the part of the evidence where they ask you for additional proof of your marriage. And this is the part where you have to provide evidence of bona fide marital relationship. So these are just some of the examples that you can provide. However, you can provide whatever other evidence you think needs to be provided in your case, and this is obviously where you will include all of that evidence as much as you possibly can. And in my I-130 video, I will link it under this video and I will also put it on the screen. You will be able to see what kind of evidence of bona fide marriage you can include with your application, and you can upload it all here. So any third-party affidavits, any photos of your relationship together throughout, your marriage or your relationship, any joint property, financial documentation, copies of birth certificates of your kids, health insurance, literally anything you will upload here. You can upload as many documents as you need. And another thing I would say is I have seen people trying to upload 100 or 50 pictures, like actual photos of them and their spouse. That is way too much, so please don't do that. I would say instead of uploading photos throughout your relationship one by one into this whole document, I would say create a PDF document where you have all of those pictures listed out, and maybe make little notes under each picture showing who is in the photo, when it was taken, where it was taken, stuff like that. And then you can upload that PDF file here. But definitely, I do not suggest uploading photos one by one. You want to make sure that whoever opens your form, your application, that they look through your application and they don't get confused or overwhelmed with all of the evidence that you are uploading. You want to make sure that it's clear and to the point. Finally, here you will need to upload proof of legal name change. Again, we have indicated, and this is what I mentioned in the beginning of this application, when we indicated that Jane Doe was Jane Smith in the past, say it was her maiden name, for example. So here you will need to upload proof of that. Finally, we are at the part which requires the I-130A form to be uploaded here. So once again, like I said before, once you fill out the form I-130A in PDF format, and you can also refer to a video guide that I have filling out this form, you can upload it in here, and then you can proceed next with this application. One question that I get a lot is what to do if my spouse lives overseas. Does the form I-130A need to be signed? And the answer is no, it doesn't need to be signed. And the top of the form I-130A actually tells you that if your spouse is overseas, they don't need to sign this form. You can simply fill it out and upload it here. So now let's click next. And any evidence that you have not provided, they will give you this warning, but please make sure that at least on this first page of the evidence, you are uploading evidence in every single part, because this evidence is very important. And the second page of the evidence is another part that confuses a lot of people, because it asks for these religious, school, census records, whatever it is. So please read these instructions carefully. All it says is if you don't have a required document, such as the evidence that was asked in this part right here, then you will need to provide this additional evidence. If you have provided every piece of evidence on the previous page to support your petition, this page is completely optional. Click next. Again, it will give you an error message that says you should provide evidence, but if you don't need to provide anything here, then we can click next again and it will let us proceed. So finally, this will give you a chance to review your application. It will tell you how much the filing fee is again, any alerts and warnings. You don't have any, which is good. So it means that your application is in fact complete and is ready to be submitted. Again, don't forget the evidence part, but say for instance, we said it's all set. Click next. On this part, it will give you a summary of your form and you can view a draft case snapshot. So here it will give you a PDF file of your case, which outlines all the necessary information that you have filled in. So you can download this, and I highly suggest that you save a copy of this for your own record. So again, this is just a quick review of your application. If you feel like everything is indicated correctly, all the evidence is uploaded, again, here you will see evidence in each part. Once you feel like everything is complete, you can click next. You can say, I can read and understand English, and click next. And here it will ask you to sign your petition. So again, you will have to read these statements saying that all the information is true and correct. I have read and understood the agreement. And here you will sign your form by writing your full name. After typing in your full name, this will basically be your digital signature. And after this, you will click next and it will submit your form, and it will also take you to an additional page where you will need to provide the payment, and you will be able to obviously pay online. I'm not going to click it because this is a fake application. I don't want to submit it, but basically this is all that we have. Again, I really like the online application because it's so much easier and it guides you through the process. Don't forget to upload all the necessary evidence. Make sure that everything is complete and correct. And I hope you found this video useful. I hope I answered most of the questions that you've had. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Please give this video a thumbs up so more people can see it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in my next videos.